Hi there, I'm the Hermit, and welcome to my shed. In this video we are going to discuss the Cuban Missile Crisis, which commenced 62 years ago on October 16, 1962, and was one of the most intense moments of the Cold War, bringing the world to the brink of nuclear disaster. This confrontation between the United States and the Soviet Union lasted for 13 days and centered on Soviet missile deployment in Cuba, which is just 90 miles off the coast of Florida. So let's open up the door and see what's inside.
Do you, Ambassador Zorin, deny that the USSR has placed and is placing medium and intermediate range missiles and sights in Cuba? Yes or no? Don't wait for the translation, yes or no?
I am not in an American courtroom, sir, and therefore I do not wish to answer a question that is put to me in the fashion in which a prosecutor does. In due course, sir, you will have your reply.
I'm prepared to wait for my answer until hell freezes over, if that's your decision.
What is the advantage? There must be some major reason for the Russians to set this up.
One thing, Mr. Khrushchev, they have in mind is that he knows that we have a substantial nuclear superiority, but he also knows that we don't really live under fear of his nuclear weapons to the extent that he has to live under fear of ours.
The crisis began when American U-2 spy planes detected Soviet nuclear missile sites being built in Cuba. These missiles had the potential to strike most of the continental U.S. President JFK, shocked by this revelation, convened his advisors to determine the best course of action. After heated debates, Kennedy opted for a naval blockade of Cuba to prevent further Soviet shipments of missiles and weapons.
Our policy has been one of patience and restraint, as befits a peaceful and powerful nation which leads a worldwide alliance. We have been determined not to be diverted from our central concerns by mere irritants and fanatics. But now further action is required, and it is underway, and these actions may only be the beginning. We will not prematurely or unnecessarily risk the course of worldwide nuclear war, in which even the fruits of victory would be ashes in our mouth. But neither will we shrink from that risk at any time it must be faced. Acting, therefore, in the defense of our own security and of the entire Western Hemisphere, and under the authority entrusted to me by the Constitution, as endorsed by the resolution of the Congress, I have directed that the following initial steps be taken immediately. First, to halt this offensive buildup, a strict quarantine on all offensive military equipment under shipment to Cuba is being initiated. All ships of any kind bound for Cuba, from whatever nation or port, will, if found to contain cargoes of offensive weapons, be turned back.
Tensions escalated as Soviet ships approached the blockade line. The world watched anxiously as both superpowers stood on the edge of a catastrophic conflict. But behind the scenes, diplomatic efforts were underway. In a series of intense negotiations, Kennedy and Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev communicated both publicly and privately.
An American decision to use force would have resulted in many more American as well as Soviet casualties. American plans were to have an airstrike followed by an invasion. The United States thought that the Soviets had between 12,000 and 15,000 troops. In fact, the Soviets had between 40 and 50,000 troops. Their attack against the Soviet bases would have resulted in many more casualties. In addition, the United States didn't know about some of the smaller nuclear weapons that the Soviets had managed to put on the island. And had the United States invaded Cuba, there were 12 short-range missiles on the island placed at the likely landing sites for any U.S. Marine amphibious attack.
Ultimately, the two leaders reached an agreement. The Soviet Union would remove its missiles from Cuba in exchange for a public pledge from the U.S. not to invade Cuba. Additionally, Kennedy privately agreed to remove U.S. missiles from Turkey, though this concession was kept secret at the time.
The Soviet missile bases in Cuba are being dismantled,
Their missiles and related equipment are being traded, and the fixed installations at these sites are being destroyed.
The Cuban Missile Crisis is often regarded as the closest the world has ever come to nuclear war. However, it also marked a turning point in the Cold War, leading to improved communications between the US and the Soviet Union, such as the establishment of the hotline between Washington and Moscow. The crisis highlighted the importance of diplomacy and restraint in managing international conflict, serving as a powerful reminder of the devastating consequences that could arise from nuclear brinkmanship. This historic event remains a critical lesson in the need for careful diplomacy and the dangers of unchecked military escalation. This crisis that happened 62 years ago was a stark reminder of how close the world came to nuclear war. For 13 tense days, the US and Soviet Union stood on the brink of a catastrophe after the discovery of Soviet missiles in Cuba. This crisis serves as a powerful warning about the danger of nuclear war, where a single misstep could lead to unimaginable destruction. Today, as we are now closer to nuclear war since the crisis in 1962, it's crucial that nations continue to pursue peace and diplomatic solutions. So that's it for this one. I hope to see you again. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and thanks for watching.